Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I kind of want to talk about self-love. I've been learning a lot through my shadow work about real self-love and what that might look like for each individual person. So my whole life I've used positive affirmations to help me with my negative thoughts. I'm constantly thinking negative. It's always running through my head about my body, about my looks, about what I say to people, how I say things, just always stressed. And I've always used positive affirmations, and I felt like it's never really worked. I've never really gotten better about accepting who I am as a person. So I learned something new this week, and I want to kind of explain. So there's this bridge, right, with anything, where we want to be and where we're at. So I want to have self-love, but I don't feel that way. And so the problem is when I jump to affirmations like, I love myself, I'm denying the part of myself that doesn't really feel like that's true. So in a sense, I'm invalidating my true emotions, and therefore I can't ever really face them. So they never get better. The best way to address things and to heal is to face them, is to turn around and face our shadows, our demons, basically what shadow work is. So how is that done? Part of my goals this year was to do positive self-talk, but intentional. But I felt like there's something else I needed to do besides just saying, oh, I love myself, or you're beautiful, or you're gorgeous. Like, I know that, but I don't always feel that. So what I did with my shadow work coach is we sat down and we talked about different ways that I can start to slowly build up that way while I'm still validating myself. I have to do affirmations that are true to myself right now. So one that I picked was, I'm curious about loving myself. And so that's a true statement. I'm curious what it would look like if I love myself. I'm curious what it would feel like if I love myself. I'm curious of what kind of life I would have as I truly accepted who I was. So it's starting with smaller steps, because I tend to jump so far. A lot of people tend to jump so far with just stay positive. Even my comments, right? Everyone's just like, stay positive. It's not that simple. It's good to share how we're feeling. It's good to tune into emotions. Now, we don't want to get stuck there. I've definitely been stuck where I've been laying in bed for months and don't get out. We don't want that. We want to step into the part of ourselves that feel insecurities and feel judgments on ourselves. So I want to give you an example. I went to a work party with my ex. So already a hard thing, but we're still friends, and I didn't want him to go alone. And that triggered my anxiety a lot. A lot of pretty girls there, and I'm into girls, so normally I'm fine and I love it. And for some reason, I was just feeling so much insecurity, so much anxiety. It didn't help that I didn't know anyone there, and I was just there with my ex. We still have a really great time together, but I kept having these breakdowns. At one point, I had to go in the car and calm myself down because I was just feeling such intense anxiety. And, I could have just said, oh, I love myself, stay positive, just get through this, you should be grateful that you're here at a fun party with an open bar and axe throwing. And that wouldn't have been helpful. It would have maybe stopped my emotions for a little bit, but they would have come roaring out later. So what I did is I went in the car and I sat down and I said to myself, I want to step into the part of me that is insecure. I want to step into the part of me that feels jealousy. And so I stepped into those parts and I really dug deep. And what I found was just that my whole life, I feel like I've had to compete for people's attention, for people's love, to make sure that I'm good enough. So there's so much insecurity that when I walk into a room, that I have to be the best, and that otherwise I'm scared. And, I think I just grew up with a lot of abuse that kind of taught me that I had to be number one, and I wasn't allowed to fuck up. And if I fucked up, then a lot of people could get hurt, or I would get hurt. And so I still have that mentality that if I'm not the prettiest, if I'm not the blah, 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 if I'm not, then I'm nothing. and it's very black and white in my head. So sitting down and taking the time to step into that part of me that didn't love myself, that felt insecure, that felt jealousy, I never would have known that. I never would have had memories of my trauma come up that have taught me those emotions that I have and why I feel them so strongly. Instead I would have just said, oh, I'm fine, or you're beautiful, you're great, nothing's wrong. Like, I needed to step into those emotions. Those shadows of me needed validation and needed to be heard, and they didn't need to be pushed aside. So I really do believe in toxic positivity, and I think there's a really fine line, because I think it's important to see the good in things, but I also think it's important to at least address what's going on, because if you don't address what's going on, you're going to fall apart. And that's exactly what's been happening to me into my life, because of religion, because of how I was raised. You didn't talk about emotions, you just put on a smile, and you were a good little Christian girl, and you weren't allowed to have emotions, you weren't allowed to have sexual feelings, you weren't allowed to like other girls, I had a whole list of things that I wasn't allowed to do. But yet I was having these urges, and I thought I just kept pushing them away because I was like, I hated myself for having these urges, and I just thought I was such a bad person. And so those things get ingrained in your brain, and you just stay positive, but that doesn't help. I tried to push through when really I needed to sit down and listen to what I needed. So what I did that specific yesterday when I was feeling those jealousies, right, I wasn't in a place where I could really go in depth, right? So what I do and what I've learned with my shadow work coach, therapist, whatever you want to call them, is that I put him in a safe haven. So when I'm sitting there imagining the little parts of me that have been damaged, right, the shadows that are really hurt and hurting, the parts of me that have learned that I shouldn't love myself, or that I have to compete, or that I'm never good enough, I'm never going to be enough, but I still have this driving perfectionist in me that wants to be. I have to sit down and I take them to a safe haven. And me specifically, in the memories, I was probably like 8 or 9. So I took myself, little version of me, to a bed, and I put them in the bed, and I cuddled them in with a heated blanket in my head, and I brushed their hair, and I just told them that it's okay to rest, that it's okay to just be, and it's okay, that you're not enough. And the reality is, I will never be enough for the world, but I don't fucking care anymore. I'm so tired of people commenting on who I am as a person. And people have their opinion. It's true. You're allowed to have your opinion. And I guess I just don't want to let people shame me into being something else. And I'm not going to let myself shame myself into being someone else. I like girls. I like tattoos. I like piercings. I like sometimes wearing fake nails. And I like taking baths, and I love talking about mental health, and I like getting my feelings out. And I've shamed myself for way too long, and this year is going to be the year of self-love. And what's hard is I'm constantly changing, so self-love is a consistent thing that I have to do throughout the rest of my life. And sitting down and being where I'm at, hopefully one day I can say that I completely love myself. But for right now, I'm curious. I'm curious to know what it looks like. I'm curious to know what it feels like. And I'm going to explore that and take it one step at a time till I can bridge that gap between how I feel now and how I'd like to feel. And that's with a lot of things. I watched a YouTube video, I don't know her name, but she talks about bridging the gap, like starting with the very basic of where you at, like if you want a relationship, you like relationships, or do you like just being around people? Like, you find the basics of the truth of where you're at right now and build yourself up to where you want to be, because just jumping right away is going to invalidate what your emotions are right now. So I just really want to emphasize, like, I know some people are probably watching for other reasons, and that's okay. Hopefully this message at least gets to you. But don't invalidate what you feel. Even if it seems like the most irrational emotions, it's still what you're feeling, and those need addressed. And somewhere underneath there, you have needs. Today I woke up and I really felt like I needed to go to the sauna. I love sitting in the sauna. I love being in the water. And usually my routine is sauna, swim, hot tub. But today it was fucking cold outside and raining, and I didn't feel like going in the cold pool today. So I just went from the sauna to the hot tub because that's what I needed. I needed comfort, I needed warmth, I needed just to feel that comfort of like being surrounded by something warm and peaceful. So that's what I did. And I just want you to know that if you're going through a really hard time and you're experiencing a lot of emotions, to sit down with yourself and ask yourself what you need, because your needs do matter. No matter what you think, no matter what anyone has taught you or society, or what you need and want in your life should be valued. And you should definitely take the time to bridge the gap between where you are and what you want. And self-love is one of those really important things. So sending my love to all of you guys and hoping that you guys have a wonderful night.